You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel.
We present Eye of the Beholder by John Fryer with Ellen Jackson and Duncan Smith.
Oh, please forgive me, Mr. Wakeham. There was a problem with the underground.
I see. It's, Miss...
Let me put this down. Every time I travel across town with it, I end up bumping into people with it.
Did you need to bring it with you today, whatever it is?
Just a bag of paper, various sizes. Hopefully I'll get to show them to you later.
Right.
As I said, sorry. A signal failure at Regent's Park, I'm afraid. It can sometimes be difficult to understand the announcements, especially with so many people in the trains. Do you want to start right away? Always love it here. Foremost art gallery in the capital.
Never apologise, young lady. Whatever happens in life, you should always react as if it is what you expected, if not intended, to happen in the first place. You should be the focus, or the centre, as others might say, of your own existence, for it is that prism through which we see the world, and how the rest of the world sees us.
The centre of our own universe, in effect.
Of course. You, me, all around. We create the world we want others to see. They, after all, are creating what they wish us to see. The world is awash with images people are comfortable sharing with the rest of humanity. If you don't believe me, simply look down the street. One can see the usual confident individual, those with purpose. You can also see those that are not. The timid, the nervous, the afraid. The world has no place for those that are not prepared to stand tall and proclaim themselves. Those who are willing to say, "This is my vision, my view of the here and now. Take it or leave it."
And you clearly feel that the art world does that.
Does what?
Allows that freedom of expression. That someone, a man or woman, the ability to give their view of the world.
Young lady, before we go any further, let us establish very clearly there is only a very limited number of artists of any note in the 20th and now 21st centuries, and I don't see that changing in the future. Do not misunderstand me. Miss Lavacombe, isn't it?
That's correct, Mr. Wakeham.
Oh, young lady, please, feel free to call me Dominic.
I heard it was normally Dom.
And you caught me out. Done some research on me, have you? Or have you simply read my book, A Life in Art, Volume 1? I was going to put everything into it, but the publisher said I should leave something for a second book. So, Volume 1, as I'm sure you know, only goes up to my appointment as the arts critic for the Herald, which you undoubtedly know is understood to be the foremost major authority on the subject of modern art today.
That's what they say.
When I was first offered the position, which you know was back in '03, I was at the time contracted to the magazine Arts Monthly, a quiet suburban publication, but I suppose we shouldn't criticize them too much for that. Like they say, we all had to start somewhere. No point mentioning Rembrandt or Van Eyck or Lord forgive us, Van Gogh. They never had a clue. Simply give us copy, that's all they wanted, all they knew. No more understanding of the techniques of the old masters than most people know about the dark side of the moon. Still, hardly their fault, I suppose. This is what state education leads to. The subordinates aiming above their station in life. I suppose it's inevitable. If you allow certain people from the lower classes access to concepts above their abilities, what can you expect? So, one had to move on. I know what you're thinking. I can see it in your eyes. I was the one carrying that magazine, but I couldn't be expected to save a wounded animal. It's a pity, but there was little choice, as I saw it, on this occasion, but to put myself first. I'm sure you can see my point of view.
It is, as you say, a point of view.
I never understood those that argue the position of staying and trying to bring change about from within. If something's wrong, then it's just wrong. The nobility of self-sacrifice is not really an opinion that I share.
No, I can see that.
One must be prepared to call a spade a spade.
I had no idea that you were such a keen gardener.
No, that's not what one meant.
You meant?
It's like art, which I do know something about.
Oh?
Far too many today believe that they can produce quality product, art that the world will or should care about. Too many middle-class talentless students that spring forth every year straight out of art school. Out they come, no idea of the marketplace or its requirements. People who may know one end of a brush from the other, but have not yet found their own voice, submitting their efforts as best they can, but with nothing to say of the world around them. Oh, no doubt you're only too aware, Miss Lavicum, that we live in a time when appearance is more important than substance.
It has been said.
The media today has a very short attention span. Whatever was in vogue today will have been forgotten by this time tomorrow. It's only the greatest of artists that shall survive and be remembered into the future. The striving for the eternal is a constant within all men. It's the proof that we exist, the evidence before our very eyes that we are here today, in the moment, and we shall be remembered long after the artist is dead. No other profession can achieve this. Will anyone remember the local bricklayer, or the man who lays the carpet? These are necessary tasks. Someone has to perform them, but does the world then ask Bob the shelf stacker for his views on life? Does it now?
I wonder what he'd say if anyone bothered.
He'd probably tell you that he watched on the television last night, or some sporting event.
Possibly. I was going to say...
But we were talking of the ethereal, Miss Lavicum.
Oh, please, call me Kay.
Kay. Yes, of course. Kay. Now, Kay, only art can transcend the barrier between the grubby, dirty, squalid existence of the labourer and the ethereal existence of the artist. If one looks at the images of the old masters, the construction of the image, the composition and form of the design, the structure and positioning of the themes and ideas, it's clear that here were men a breed apart from the mere mortals that paint or work the soil of the land. No, Kay, one must never confuse the broad back of the manual worker and the esoteric quality of the old masters. These were men of a different level of consciousness from anything we see today. The idea that someone from home counties living in the 21st century could enter the same spiritual plane as a man from the 15th is quite preposterous.
And yet, the modern art world is worth a considerable amount of money. Last year's global sales were worth somewhere in the order of $6 billion.
Income is never a substitute for taste.
But you have also been seen at such galleries and exhibitions.
One must make sacrifices for one's profession.
Indeed. If I may take this moment to say
In the
that...
past, one would be expected to attend galleries worthy of the name. Now, almost everyone with a paintbrush or pencil consider themselves the next Rembrandt. I'm frequently required to view work, if one may even use that word for such compositions, and even for a man of my extensive experience and knowledge, I'm left confused and disappointed by the meagre efforts of the talentless, but aspirational. When one thinks of what passes for art in the modern culture, is it any surprise that the facile and empty are promoted and placed upon a plinth? And the genuine work of the old masters is now seen in the auction houses as a novelty?
Yes, it is rare for any of the older works to make it to the catalogues of the major galleries and auction houses.
It is sad, young lady.
Kay,
Yes. Now,
just to quickly thank you for taking the time from your busy timetable to speak to me.
it is a magazine, isn't it?
Yes, a new arts magazine which will cover the comings and goings of the contemporary art market. Who's in vogue, who no longer is, the next talent to watch for in the future. But we're also doing features on those that work in and around the arts themselves. People who have influence, those whose views matter, whose view is listened to, and maybe even acted upon. That is why I approached you, a man like you of such knowledge and experience. I cannot tell you how surprised I was when you agreed to see me today.
If one does not give one's blessings to such endeavours, how are the young ever to progress or learn?
And at Contemporary Art Now, we are all very grateful for your time, Dominic.
Yes. As I was instructing you, It is rare that such quality is seen in the art world these days.
But the money follows the modern artists. Collectors are paying out millions, even for the work of artists who are producing copious amounts of work.
If work sells, a market will be created. It's just the way that all industries work.
Yes, but, and please forgive me, the point must be, if it is running along the lines of other businesses, then the rarely seen piece, as you put it, should hold its value. What I and others see is something very different.
Oh. You think the world of the artist has somehow managed to buck the trend, that the laws of financial reality no longer apply? Art is somehow different from the rest of the marketplace?
No.
Then what is it that you see?
2 years ago, a new auction house opened on the South Bank. The Picture Frame it was called.
I've been there. The decor is rather 1960s throughout.
They had a stand just outside of the entrance doors, which is changed to indicate the theme of the current or upcoming show. When they had some early Van Gogh sketches last year, they hung a representation of the sunflowers outside,
They were very early works.
which still generated a huge amount of public interest.
The little people will always be fascinated by the work of the expressionists. Artists are frequently placed above the common horde, as well they should be. History never records the humble, everyday masses. It's the exceptional that are written about and remembered.
But even the great and the good of the art world were once only ordinary mortals, like the rest of us.
They always had something. Those around them always knew they were destined for greatness. Those were men shaped by the times they lived in. These moments, these events became part of the DNA of the work they've left behind. Images on canvas that have shown us what words could never convey, the beauty of a bygone age. Those around them saw the spark of creativity, of brilliance, that the following generations have since viewed in awe and wonder. A talent that radiated out in all directions.
Van Gogh died a pauper.
Well, there are exceptions to every rule.
But, and again, please forgive me, this illustrates the point I was trying to make.
What point was that?
Van Gogh's work is finite. There's only so much of it around. There'll never be any more.
Well, he hasn't painted anything recently, if that's what you're meaning.
What I meant was, as a dead painter, he holds his value because there cannot possibly be any additional work. Then why does an artist with years to live still command such a high return for their output?
The market will always recognize the ability of the most gifted and then raise them up to an exalted position. There are artists even today that speak for our time, those that have produced such work that they have reshaped our view of the world in which we all find ourselves.
All right. Let me ask the same question, but in a different way.
If you feel you must.
Why spend several millions on a canvas that is simply a single colour, when there'll be something very similar in the next 3 months painted a different colour? A one-off has a novelty, but half a dozen that are basically the same?
Who are you thinking of?
Thomas Christopher has brought to market 8 paintings over the last 2 years, each a canvas covered in a single colour. Each work given a corresponding title: Sunrise, a yellow canvas; Sky, a bright blue canvas; Night, a black canvas; Sea, a dark blue-green canvas, and on, roughly every 3 months. Each picture generating a higher price than the one that went before.
I'm not a collector.
No, but you have written about modern art yourself, though. Many times, in fact.
One is sometimes required to pen a few lines for the trade, as it were.
And in your regular column. I counted up the difference between your reviews of shows of classical paintings and your views on modern art forms.
And did you come to any conclusions other than my distaste for almost all forms of modern art?
I thought it was odd, really.
Please tell me you don't have stacks of old newspapers just so you could count up my reviews of the art world. They would have to be piled up to the ceiling. You would never have got through the door. Piles and piles of my opinion on everyone from Rigoletto to Titian, from Rembrandt to Van Gogh. Must have given you more than a little bedtime reading. I suppose you think you know me, or at least a small portion of me. People make that mistake all the time, that the work of the art critic can somehow be taken as a reflection of the individual themselves. People should not make such a fundamental mistake. The two are very different animals. My working life, my writing, is a considered attempt to explain to those who may appreciate the aesthetic pleasure they themselves receive from viewing such work, but could never themselves see the levels of depth and understanding that lie, some say, beneath the surface, but I argue is there for all to see, provided they have the ability to see any of it in the first place. It is good to see you trying to take some interest in the subject, but you must not get caught up simply with my approach to art history and its prominence throughout the modern-day culture. My fame should never be taken as a reflection of me.